Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of The Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Joining me today, good friend and longtime co-host on the Polite Society podcast, now host of his own podcast and has been for a few years, host of his own podcast, Self-Defense Gun Stories, Rob Morse. Rob, thanks for coming along for the journey today, man.
My pleasure, Paul. As always, we have way more news than we have time to cover.
Absolutely. I'm getting social media hooked up here. Facebook makes me wait until we are live before it lets me start the process of gathering social media. So it always takes a few seconds. Um, Let me see here. Yep, we're already getting comments coming in, so we should get on it, bud. Um, First story I want to talk about today is this is from Tom Knighton, who was the commentator yesterday on the show. And title of this one, Gun Control Crowd Can't Admit Armed Citizens a Good Thing. And basically the gist of the story is they keep saying, but the mall was a gun-free zone, so the guy was breaking the law when he carried in there and stopped the bad guy. Well, no, he was not breaking the law. The law in Indiana is the same as the law in South Dakota and the law, I believe, in Louisiana, where you're at, Rob. And that's if you carry into a gun-free zone or someplace marked gun-free, you have to be asked to leave and refuse to leave before you break the law.
What those signs are used for is so that the mall cops, and in fact the local police, can throw the gang members out when two gangs decide to go at it in the courtyard of a mall on Friday afternoon or evening. Okay, by the way, in most states, for those signs to have any legal effect, any at all, they have to be on every entrance. Usually they're not. By the way, that includes the back entrance where materials are brought into the many stores in the mall. Is there a sign at every one of those that reads the same? One of them falls down. Therefore, the mall is not a secure zone with a warning at every entrance: no harm, no foul. In point of fact, and Paul, by the way, you and I lived through this. Was it just a couple years ago? Waffle House had
Yep.
similar rules of the house, and you and I routinely ignored it. We might tell the manager we didn't appreciate it, but we ignored it.
And by the way,
What?
the corporate rules of the house regarding guns are gone.
Yes, I do remember that changed. What we're seeing is the anti-gun politicians, and in fact, the anti-gun activists, most of them funded by Bloomberg, said, "Ooh, this guy did something really good. We best not recognize that." The contrast, of course, is what was it? 370 law enforcement officers
Mm-hmm.
finally
375.
landed at 375. My gosh. Finally showed up and, as John Farnham called it, exhibited tactical loitering outside the classrooms at Uvalde before someone who was not actually an LEO, he's working for the Border Patrol, said, "Get out of my way. Hi, I'm not asking you to do anything. Get out of my way, I'm telling you."
Mm-hmm.
And they entered the classroom and stopped the threat. After an hour and a half of staring at the ground.
Yeah. But yeah, yeah.
Um,
The
Go ahead.
and here's the thing. I'm being a little cynical here, but the other side kind of has to paint the hero as the bad guy here and
Right,
point out that he's doing something wrong simply because they're losing fundraising on this. They're when they don't
right.
have dead victims, they can't raise money on it. So
What what is also hard for them to raise money on, I think both the mayor and the police chief said the guy's a hero.
mhm.
He saved a lot of lives. Thank goodness he moved toward the sound of gunfire. Without that, if we waited for police, things would have been much, much worse. Um, I think that's important because very few people have tried to take a 40-yard shot with a handgun. You've
Yeah,
done it, Paul.
I
I've done
have.
it. Right. And so, that's a stretch, but it's doable. Most people think that is science fiction.
No, it's a
Okay.
lot of practice.
Well, no, to do it reliable.
To do it is
Paul,
training and a lot of practice.
but okay, you could do it now. You wouldn't get 10 out of 10 hits, but I'm still betting you're going to get 4 out of 10, even though you're probably out of practice. So, faced with a guy's murdering innocent people in a courtyard, I'm not as close as I'd like. It's not the shot I'd like, it's the shot I have. This is where the column is that gives me cover. Am I going to take it? You know what? If I put any hit on him, he's not going to be murdering people anymore. It's worth taking the shot.
He's going
So
to
you miss
stop
the
paying
person.
attention to them and try to pay attention to me, or just, making me stop. Right.
And in fact, the murderer ran toward the bathroom. Fine. He didn't make it to the bathroom. He collapsed before he made it. That's a victory.
Mm-hmm.
You don't now, Paul. I wrote about this. How many? And this happens to you and I
Well,
all the time.
let
Go ahead.
me
Go ahead.
let me get it. So we've got some great comments in here, because and I want to address some of these comments specifically. But first comment is DJ Play Nice over on the YouTube side. Business may trespass you. Never heard of one that did. I was careless once, and my firearm got exposed, and I was asked to leave, and I did. They didn't say never come back. They just said, please go put your firearm in your car. I went back out, covered it back up, and but yeah, no, at least the businesses I frequent, it's less than a deal. Even if they are posted gun-free zones. He also says prohibited places include hospitals, schools, etc. are a different story.
Right.
I carry to my doctor's office, which is posted because of corporate policy in many places. Every entry door, every way I could get to the doctor's office is posted no guns. I carry. My doctor knows I carry, but nobody else does.
Right.
And I'm going to continue. And then the doctor's never said a word about it. Even when he's made an examination, I had to have me remove it to examine around it. But how do I put this? Look, what are the chances? And they're not a zero chance, but again, these are gun-free zones. A nurse has a ex-husband that is really pissed off. Where is he going to go to exact revenge? Is he going to go where she has a chance to defend herself, or where he knows everybody's supposed to be disarmed?
And we've seen it.
Yes.
We've seen patients leaving hospitals with the pain meds that they need, maybe not the full 30-day or 45-day course of pain meds, but hi, this will get you through the next 3 days. They get robbed in the parking lot because they were, by the time the procedures and all the paperwork's done, the sun's gone down and they get robbed because they're disarmed.
I think it was last week when you were on subbing for Craig, we talked about that case in Oklahoma where the young lady had her husband passed away of cancer. She still had the pain med drugs in her house, and she was attacked because of those pain med drugs. Had to defend herself in her house.
Right.
That happens a lot. DJ Play Nice says, know the laws in your states and municipalities. Amen, bud. Know this law where you're at. Know it forwards, backwards, and sideways.
Now, DJ Play Nice, are you sure that's not like a taco? It's a municipalito. An engineer just made fun of somebody's spelling, so retribution is sure to descend from the sky in just a second.
One more, and then we'll get to the next story. John, constitutional carry works. God bless Indiana, and yes, it does.
Yes.
We covered that
Yes.
last night in depth on Polite Society. The difference between a gun free zone in Indiana and a gun free zone in Illinois.
Right.
In Illinois, everybody paid attention to the gun free zone because if you get arrested in Illinois in a gun free zone while you're armed, that's a big deal. In Indiana, nobody cares and you'll just be asked to leave.
What we should say about this defense situation in Indiana, the defender asked his girlfriend to get down. Hi,
Mm-hmm.
there's something coming up. Don't be standing up. You're a target. She's a nursing student in college. After he's put the attacker down, she gets up, starts doing first aid, triage.
Triage
Let's get some
the
tourniquets on these
victims.
people so they don't bleed out before EMTs arrive. That is citizens armed defense. We teach it in our schools. We teach it in our churches. Thank goodness we're allowed to practice it in our malls. What's really important is this situation needs a lot of publicity, because then the next mass murderer will go, yeah, maybe not a mall. Yeah, because I could get killed doing that, and then I look like a loser
Mm-hmm.
rather than a mass murderer. That's what we want. That's what we want. This is a societal inoculation to celebrity violence.
It is.
What
It is. And I love that term. I love that. Yeah, that you're the first person I've heard used it. Celebrity violence. It's using violence to try and make a celebrity of yourself. I
right,
love that
right.
term.
Well, we called it celebrity suicide when teenagers would do it because they were so desperate for attention. They'd kill themselves in strange ways to get their name in the paper, and those clustered. We're now seeing some of these mass murders cluster in time. Oh, I could imitate him. Paul, I want to just bring up one thing, and in this sense, I'm preaching to the choir. When our listeners talk about this event with their friends, our friends don't understand that someone with a handgun can stop someone with a rifle. They're not standing on the range facing each other. A murderer has attention toward his intended victims.
mhm.
He is virtually blind unless you're standing right in front of him waving a flag. I will bet very large sums of money at almost any odds the attacker never saw the man who stopped him.
I would bet with you on that. I certainly would not bet against it.
Right. So it's just an issue of perceptual kinematics. You've seen the joke of hunters being so intent on their prey that another animal sneaks up right behind them. It's not a joke. It's the way our brain functions. It's not that we can't see, it's that we don't look. And that makes us vulnerable from behind.
Next story I wanted to talk about today, written by a really smart guy I know by the name of Rob Morse. How hard is it to stop mass murder? Um, I want to get to your take on it in a second, but I want to kind of spring off on it. I want to. Well, first of all, let's do it this way. If you would explain the article just a little bit, and then I'm gonna go in a different direction and go my take on it. So,
Do you
go ahead.
I think John Lott presciently, that means as if he could see the future, had just published an article that said, I know it never happened, Sharon, uh, but here are 60 times when our neighbors stopped mass murder. And again, I just described the mechanics of why it works. Um, these people who want celebrity violence go to gun-free zones so that they're in one-sided combat. They don't want to have people who are going to launch bullets the other way. When that happens, when they have to wait for the police to show up, about 14 people die. If there's an armed citizen there, he goes, well, now you and I, even though we've been around gunfire, we, despite what Shannon Watts says, we're not going, oh, good, that's a gunshot. We're invariably taken by surprise. Is that what I thought? We don't believe what our ears just told us. It takes typically 3 2.5 to 3 gunshots before we go, holy cow, I know what that is. It's not good. I wonder if I can stop it. We focus on the attacker. We typically see him from behind or from the side, and we go, if I don't do anything, a dozen people are going to die. 1, 2, game over. So it's not a Superman event. It's not a ninja event. It's an ordinary guy goes, holy cow, this is going to be terrible. You know what? I can fix this. 1001, 1002, and it's over.
I was on social media today. I'm not gonna name the person. It's another podcaster, but they said, can we all just agree that maybe it's not a great idea to go to the mall food court to eat lunch? And I kind of replied, I said, look, I'm not going to, and I got my inspiration, honestly, from DJ Play Nice, so from some comments he made previously. I'm not going to change what I do out of fear. If I am with some people, they want to go to them. I don't like malls to start with, but if they want to go to the mall food court for lunch, I'll go with them to the mall food court. I'll pay attention. I'll try and be as safe as I can. And I'll try and keep awareness about me as much as I can, but I'm not going to change my life out of fear. I'm gonna try to be as as alert as I can be. And look, I've had training by the very best. This person among them, I'm gonna try and rely on that training and my practice of my skills, so that should the very worst happen, hopefully I react and come up to my level of training and react well. That's the.
Well, I want to argue. I appreciate your perspective. Let's turn it on its head.
Okay.
No, I think if you're a concealed carrier, this is a wake-up call. Carry all the time.
Oh, yes.
Because it could be church. It could be the food court at a mall. It could be the line where you pick up your kids or your grandkids in front of the school. Could be soccer practice. Could be a movie. Could be anywhere. No, I'm going to say, rather than avoiding crowds, I'm going to go armed, because if this is going to happen, I want there to be a responsibly armed individual there to stop it. I don't want to wait for the cops and add another dozen victims to the body count.
I'll go one step further. Every time I can, I take my wife with me, not because I have one armed person there. That way, there's one armed person there with backup.
And she shoots better than you do.
Yes, quite often she does. Yes. Let's get some comments in here. Gun websites, G-Webs. He's got his ESP going on. He's got our next story already up in a comment. But HR 1808, new assault weapons ban to be heard in committee tomorrow. You need to contact your reps, and we're going to put that up right there. U.S. Capitol Switchboard 202-224-3121. We'll get to more on that in just a second here.
I would add, after you do that, GOA has a petition so that you hit your Congress critters and your senators. Go sign up.
Yes.
In my case, they already have my email, my phone number. I mean, GOA, I should be on their frequent caller schedule by now. Anyway.
Google also is your friend. Every senator has multiple offices in their home state, and phone numbers are listed there on Google. Don't stop with the U.S. Capitol switchboard. Call now, your local rep, your house rep only has probably one office, except mine. Mine has a whole state, so mine has 3 offices throughout South Dakota. But if you're in Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's district, she's probably got one office back home. Call that office and call DC. But yeah, it's time to call your House members, and if they have more than one office in your congressional district, call each office they have. But yeah, get on the phones. This assault weapons ban, it probably won't clear the Senate, but let's not give it a chance to get there.
I like that. Um, and but okay, Paul, we talked about this on the Polite Society. I want to throw it out to our people who are following us right this minute, gun websites, for example. Uh, Charlie, I'm thinking of you. So, why this bill at this time? Okay, Bloomberg says I can force anti gun bills through the legislature faster than the courts can repeal them. Okay, political gambit might work. There's, I think, another reason. This is an election season. Politicians want campaign cash. Bloomberg can deliver. But on top of that, oh, we passed a gun safety legislation bill. If there are no attacks, they'll claim credit. See, I frightened away all the mass murders by snapping my fingers.
Mm-hmm.
Give me another million. See how well this works? If there are attacks, then the do nothing legislation will be, oh, but
We
can you
need to do
imagine
more
how
of it.
bad it would have? Yeah. Can you imagine how bad it would have been if I'm not here frightening away the mass murders by snapping my fingers? So, in either case, it's going to produce press releases. We need to call it out. If you see this covered in your local media, this is where a letter to the editor, a comment in the article, a comment on social media is really valuable to say, this is theater.
It really is. And I've said, if an assault weapons ban goes through, it'll be law for a minute. It'll get challenged. My boss, among others,
Right.
will challenge it.
There will be a race to the courthouse. What I worry about in that regard, he might be right. Maybe they can write infringing legislation faster than we can appeal it. It may take decades to get our rights back. And it will paint a picture for headline surfers that, oh yeah, we need more political theater to protect me.
Yeah. Let me get another comment up here real quick. Honcho Fett, love that name, by the way, over on YouTube, says, everyone makes their own decision every day. Basic risk assessment should be done. I teach my sons how to recognize these things in order to stay safe. Now, I said I'm going to go to the mall, to the food court to have lunch. I'm not gonna stop doing that. That doesn't mean I'm going to go to the seedy side of town and go to the strip club. That's, that's not going to
At 2 in the
happen.
morning
Yeah.
On Saturday morning. Right. Let's Hancho, let's put this in perspective. It's been true about schools forever. You driving to pick up your children, putting them in your car and driving them around town puts them at greater risk than they ever were of being victims of a public violence attack at the school. I'm going to submit going to the food court, we're at a greater risk driving there and back than we are. We're still at greater risk of food poisoning than we are of being attacked with a firearm at the food court.
Yeah.
The food itself is more dangerous than bullets.
We have a politician here in Sioux Falls that I follow on social media. She is, I don't want to say she's gun positive. She's a retired politician. I don't want to say she's gun positive. She's certainly not gun negative. But
Okay.
there was a story where there was a road rage incident, and looking at the incident, it was honestly one person being a jerk. The other person got fed up with it, was a jerk back. The person that was a jerk to start with really turned the jerk up and pulled a firearm. Politician goes, this is just getting nuts. We need to do something about this. And good thing it's a former politician. Put it that way.
And that's a fascinating point. All of these news articles are out to sell sensationalism. They have to do that if they're going to sell more, over-the-counter drugs and life insurance. They didn't tell us, okay, here are uh, a good guy stopped mass murder. This is one of the 1.6 million defensive gun uses we have every year.
Mm-hmm.
That never appears. So the fact that something shocking happened is left in isolation. They want to do that so that you'll sit there through the commercials.
You brought up a great point. You need to, we need to start calling uh, Johnson and Johnson. We need to start calling the advertisers and saying, look, these people are peddling your product around violence. Please have them stop that.
Great. You know, don't you think with comments like that, shouldn't you be the director of mass media at a public interest firm?
Well, I'm a deputy director of new media,
Oh,
so
sorry.
let's get to one more story, and this is gonna take us into overtime. I know it is. The report is out on the Uvalde school shooting, and the headline from the Truth About Guns, this one by Lindsay Whitehurst: Uvalde school shooting response failures will set law enforcement back 20 years. I was
Yes.
wrong. Earlier I said there were 375 officers there. 376 officers converged on Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. Out of 376 people, officers, sworn officers, you would think it wouldn't have to get that deep before somebody said, Chief, go pound sand. I'm going to do this.
Um, I think it was Greg Ellifritz. I may be wrong. Know that I am. It was a law enforcement officer of considerable experience. He talked about being a rookie cop, chasing a bad guy who was leaving the jurisdiction where the officer's jurisdiction. He goes, "Hey, Sarge, should I stop?" He goes, "Keep going." And then later things sort out. Good for the rookie. He doesn't have to do the paperwork. The actual apprehension was in somebody else's district. And the Sarge goes, "I pay you to use your head. If you can't figure that out, get another job. Don't ask for permission during a pursuit. Do the right thing. Worry about the fine technicalities later." By the way, the law is set up to recognize the fact that what you do with measured deliberation, let me examine all the possible ramifications and laws, isn't the behavior you might exhibit in the heat of the moment. The
Mm-hmm.
law takes that into account. It was a profound failure of leadership by the police. Each one of them. Well, Paul, haven't you talked about it? The what is that test? And who brings that up all the time? Uh, a psychology test where we're going to give you a lie, and there are other people in the room, and they all go, "Hi, here's a lie. Isn't this lie true?" And very few people will go, "No, that's a lie. The sky is blue, not green." Um, if there's one other person in the room who will go, "I don't think that's true," then it's much easier to go, "The sky is blue, not green." But a bunch of police officers saw all of their peers standing and doing nothing, and they adopted the same response. And it's in that case, if there had been one officer at the door, we would have been the children would have had a better chance than 10 officers at the door.
There you go. Well, and none of them were at the door. They were all at the end of the hallway. Uh, I've
Okay,
seen.
I'm sorry.
I cannot watch the whole video,
Right,
even with the
right.
screams of the children and the gunshots taken out of it. Just knowing what happens, I cannot watch that whole video. I get 1, 2, 3 minutes into it, and I just have to turn it off
Have to turn
because,
away.
yeah. Um,
Well, you know, well, gosh, how many of our friends have been fortunate enough to take the FASTER class, faculty and administrator safety training and emergency response for school staff who are in a violent event? They're trained to stop the threat, treat the injured until EMTs and police arrive. And they're taught By the way, they will never tell you to leave the classroom and pursue the murderer. That's your call. But if you've been through those exercises, often with police, you go, if I have to wait for the police to get here, a bunch of the kids I love are going to die.
Yeah.
So that's what the training is for. Paul, do you think it was procedural training where guys walked through it and they didn't have enough, I'll call them adolescent actors? Because in all the training I did, we had fake students and they'd moan, scream. There was not wet blood, but a red rag. I've been shot, kids screaming. So that in some sense, you, by the way, which gets your heart pumping at an unbelievable rate, so that the officers understood, felt the gravity of doing nothing.
Yeah. Maybe, and again, I'm certainly no expert, Rob, but from the video I've seen, none of those experts could see any of those children. They probably were able to hear, but none of the officers that I've viewed on video could see those children. I think that may have made a difference. I don't
Sure.
know.
In the training that I did, the only reason you have a gun is to stop the damage being done so that you can immediately start medical triage, medical treatment, trauma care, in which case they made sure we had lots of options, lots of people needed care. Um, and I'm wondering if the police had bad training, because if in their head
At
there
least their
was
chief did.
right, yeah, yeah.
Let's get a couple of comments in here quick. We're already over time, but we'll start wrapping it up. DJ Plain Ice again. I understand you're questioning if your position has room for latitude, but in emergency situations like that one involves lives being lost, do it. You can get a new job. You cannot restore those lives lost. Great way to put it, DJ, man. Great.
DJ, I've spoken to guys who've been in combat. They see the things that haunt them aren't the shots they took. It was the shots they didn't take and their buddy got injured. They wonder if they could have saved someone. Exactly what you're saying.
I want to get the George Geller unarmed self-defense story. My neighbor was carjacked yesterday.
I'm sorry, George.
Yeah, in California, George is from the San Diego area. It's San Diego has a higher probability than San Francisco or Los Angeles of it being
But still
concealed
low.
carry, but still unarmed self-defense. But yeah, so
George, we can talk because what is it? The pro-gun group there has a radio program. I forgot what it's called. I remember the guys that run it, but I can't remember the name of the program. Yeah, a lot of people need to get their permits in San Diego.
yes, hopefully very soon that's going to be the case with the Bruin decision. Now let's real quick, and we're already over time, so we only got a couple minutes, and I want to shut this down. But new laws coming into effect in California, Rob. Places in inland California, counties like Imperial County used to be shall issue, and then you had a pretty decent carry permit. And by the way, you could carry any county in the state. Now, new laws are coming in, going to make those permits not quite worth as much.
They're more difficult to get. We'll see those provisions appealed because they're non-objective. Also, California pulled to New York. They added in all kinds of prohibited places that gun owners have been carrying for decades. Again, that will be appealed because you go, what non-problem are these prohibitions trying to solve? I've heard about this. I'm waiting to see the text of the law. I believe California wrote a rider on bills that say, if you appeal a gun law and lose, we get to essentially make up all our legal fees and you get to pay them before you can appeal. The state
Mm.
will literally say, here's the state budget. Everybody was working on defending this gun law. You owe millions and millions of dollars as a tax if you question this law. We'll see whether that law is overturned that should be a slam dunk in front of a good judge. The question is if a judge can grant standing until someone pays an absurd penalty.
uh, California State Rifle and Pistol Association, I'm sure, is itching to try that one out.
It is on it like white on rice.
All right. Well, we are more than 5 minutes over. You certainly got a magnum episode today. Rob, before we take off, though, please tell everybody about Slowfax, about your podcast. Tell everybody about what you're doing, man.
I've got about 2,000 articles at slowfax.wordpress.com. Please give them a look. It'll amuse you for a minute or so. I do the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. I look at how our neighbors have conducted themselves in armed defense each week. 20 minutes podcast comes out once a week. I get to do a weekly podcast with Paul, Polite Society. Paul, have we ever put out an episode under 90 minutes? We just love to go at it.
Yes, we have. Not this week was. I want to see here. This week was 1 hour 21 minutes. I remember as I started throwing to the close. But that's a goal, is to get them 90 minutes or thereabouts.
My writing's typically picked up and carried at Amaland. I do the Daily Bullet here. I also get to be on Bill Frady's Lock and Load Radio. So you can get more Rob Morse, and it's probably worth your time.
There you go. Well, I don't know about that, because I enjoy all the time I get to interact with you, my friend.
Thank you, Paul. I do too.
So on my end, I'm going to ask you to keep coming back 5 p.m. Central Time the rest of the week. Also come back this Saturday at noon for the Week in Review. We do the Week in Review show every Saturday at noon. And let me see if I can get pulled up who's going to be on I believe this week is Cheryl Todd. But I'm trying to get my calendar to get pulled up. Cheryl Todd and Mike Piwowarski, and I still have to get a third person signed in there. But I'll get somebody booked in for that third seat. But come see us this Saturday at noon Central Time. Until next time, everybody, thanks for watching, and we'll see you around.